All right. Good evening. Welcome to the October 10th, 2024 meeting of the School Facility Improvement Committee. We'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. How's everybody doing? Great. Yeah, I actually had to turn on the heat. My daughter was cold. So I know Matt wanted to talk about email correspondence. I think we can probably jump ahead of that because I'm not sure exactly what his plans were with that.
I believe it was just that since we are an official meeting,
Yeah, with
that all email correspondence should be read into the record at the beginning of any meeting, like all other meetings. So,
okay, like red line for line, or like synopsis and then dumped into the drive so that way there's public access.
I would assume much like all the other public meetings where it's just kind of name the sender in a general, but that's just me speaking based on how other meetings do it.
Okay, I honestly don't know from the public meeting standpoint.
Yeah, the public meetings would say Joe sent a meeting to the board regarding XYZ. Responses from.
Wasn't Andrew cautioning that the email correspondence itself constituted a meeting?
I think you gotta be careful of that. Like with a school board, they can't discuss school board related issues outside of like agenda items and stuff like that. Like
So maybe, let's wait till Matt gets.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That'd be
that's,
more than just,
Yeah, I know part of the email was, as part of email correspondence, it should be read into the record, but yeah, there was that other part as well.
yeah, that's, I honestly am not sure. So jumping down to the first line item on the survey task list. So Matt did reach out to Chris Burns with the Rec Commission for me to sit down and talk with them, or somebody to sit down and talk with them about putting up the yard signs at all of the Rec Commission properties. They asked one of us to join their meeting, so I joined their meeting Tuesday night, made my case. They said we just wanted to see the sign. I showed them pretty sign and they said, go ahead. So basically on any of the Rec Commission properties, we have the ability to go put in the signs. They actually had a couple of recommendations in and around things that are fenced in. They have like entrances and exits, like the pickleball courts and the tennis courts. Put holes in the four corners and zip tie it to the fence right next to the opening. Their suggestion was don't put them anywhere of where like it could get hit by the lawnmower or stuff like that. So just be a little bit smart about that. If there's a kiosk and a sign system there with a plastic covering, we can slip it in that as well. So they asked how many as well. I said 10, 15-ish tops, and they said that should be plenty and should be fine going from there. So I think we got to divvy out who's going to do that, where to get the signs. I have some here. I know Brian's got more in his office. And do that, and a deadline to get that done by would be great. So we can discuss that now. That kind of leads into the next one for the survey outreach spreadsheet to get a status on that.
I'm happy to go put them out, so I'll take it all. I'm at the fields all the time anyway, so.
Can we put them randomly where other political signs are out along streets, like where Hillcrest and Pinecrest come together?
So the only thing,
Ideally, the signs are gonna be where people are walking, so they can actually, we don't wanna encourage them taking their cell phones out while driving the car.
Well, they're also smaller than I had anticipated. So they're
yeah,
hard to see from a car,
yeah.
but I think one of
Yeah,
the places
yeah.
where people will be walking like the fields is probably our best bet.
so in what ended up happening, that's like an image fit to the size thing issue. But it works, they will work. The only thing that we were told by the town moderator that we couldn't do is anything along Albuquerque directly.
Right.
That is like a town thing, cannot do, shall not do, type situation. But otherwise, I didn't see any restrictions in her email back. So I'm assuming anywhere else, front yards or any other streets on the sides should be fine. But, all right, so yada, 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 library, GMS, CH, so Roy Memorial,
Just put me down for all of them. I'll go put them all around.
How many signs are we talking?
so Brian ordered 30, but for the rec commission property, the area properties, I said 10 to 15 max across all of the different properties. So that'll definitely cover all of the entrances and like the high population areas, courts and fields and whatnot. Google Sheets fancy enough, it's gonna let me do that.
It does do a drag and drop.
Does it?
Yeah.
Oh. So that, Parker Park, John Bryant, Corning Fields, Kurt Schaefer, Sawmill. I don't even know where that is.
I think that's the one in Brickyard.
Okay,
Justin Bissett is on, it's on Jeff Lane.
Oh, that's the one on Jeff Lane?
Yeah.
alright. Thank you. So, as I said, Joe, I've got some here, but you're probably gonna need more than that,
Okay.
than what I've got. And if anybody else wants some, coordinate with Brian to go grab some.
Yeah, just let me know. I mean, obviously during the school days till about 4, there's always someone in the office. But there's enough evening events that we can have some out at whatever hour, so.
Well, how many are called for, so, like, what's our,
I mean, I just threw random numbers in there. I wouldn't use those as anything official.
no, I mean, if he has 30, like, how many, like, the location leaves how many left
I mean-
for general consumption? Replacement,
Yeah, I'll take the 15 for the parks and go put those out, then you get another
15.
15 to go wherever else we feel like
Yeah,
there's
you
more.
sign?
Yeah, I've also got, so I already took one as well, so 30, 15 is 15, and you had got 2, so that's 13, 1, so we got 12 left to distribute after we get all this stuff out.
Rated.
All right. Hi, Matt.
Hey, sorry. Got stuck behind a logistics truck.
A what?
That's way better than
XPO
the dog ate
Logistics.
my homework.
Logistics truck, I haven't heard of
Yeah,
that.
those delivery logistics trucks.
Oh, one of the, yeah, all right, so we did that. We did this. Matt, do we want to circle back to the email correspondence thing?
Yeah, so I did want to just cover, we had some back and forth over email, and there was some comments about, doing business out of the public eye, which was not the intention. So I just wanted to make sure that we highlighted that conversation during the meeting. So the nature of the email was that we didn't hold our last meeting because it was a third meeting of the month. We were typically only meeting for 2. And so, instead of having a meeting, I did provide an update to the group, just about, what's going on with the survey stuff and all that. It was only meant to be an update, but one thing that I did ask in that was that everyone try to take a look at familiarize yourselves with the Turner report, because one thing that was in the parking lot was Mr. Oblenis' request that we have a deep dive into that. And one of the things that we want to do is we want to always make sure that the committee as a whole is making determinations as to where we go and what we focus on. So I wanted to be able to have us have a discussion today, an educated discussion where people have actually seen the Turner report if you haven't, so that way we could come in and discuss whether or not the committee wanted to pursue that. So that was just something that I had mentioned in there. I think inadvertently a conversation ensued through back and forth of email regarding the pluses and minuses of that, and that was not the intention of the email. The intention was that we would have that conversation here, which we will have that conversation here. So ultimately, I don't think we're bound by the same rules as the school board or the selectmen in terms of emails, but just for the benefit of all of us, we will try to keep substantive conversations to the actual meetings.
Okay.
So just wanted to clarify that.
Sounds good. Yeah, and I guess I will try to keep any email correspondence to things that we've already decided on doing and asking for statuses and updates versus other actions and going forward. So, sorry if I added to all of that. Now, I know Andrew mentioned a couple of other things about making it public in that, in his statement, in his reply to that. I didn't know if there's anything else to cover there before we moved on.
You mean in terms of like, whether it constitutes a meeting or something like that?
Yeah,
Or read into the minutes.
or read it, that's right, or read into the minutes.
I don't think that we have to read that whole thing into the minutes. I also don't think that we're actually bound by the same rules that the school board and the board of selectmen are. Not that I don't think we should try to adhere to the whole purpose of this committee is to, number one, compile a group of diverse members of our community, but number two, to be able to really make public all of the discussions around this so we can actually come to a final resolution for what to do for GMS. And obviously, the most important component of that is transparency. So I think, we'll just kind of move forward with that in mind.
Excellent.
Is there anybody taking notes for tonight?
Yep.
Oh, thank you.
I should really see if I can turn on the
And attendance too.
Multitasking.
closed captioning on this and have it record it and then just give it to ChatGPT to give me a summary.
It's actually a good idea.
All right, so the survey outreach spreadsheet. Getting so confused by this.
Point of order, Bob's got to leave at some point.
Carrie does too.
And Carrie does too, so if we're gonna talk about the Turner report in its agenda, could we move that up at some point?
What time are you guys leaving?
Oh, gonna be
We
over there
meet
by
at 7.
7.
Oh, for budget committee, okay.
Yeah.
I think we could probably get through, I know we just want to get through the survey thing first. We have no problem moving the other component up. So let's see, it's 5:45 right now. If we can fire through this in the next 15, 20 minutes, I think we probably can. And still leave plenty of time. Is that good?
Yeah, that's okay, they just,
Yeah.
Yep.
No later than 6:30.
All right, so I know I hit Romano's Hidden Creek and I have permission to do Paso Conway. I haven't been able to get over there yet. And I haven't been able to hit the farm stand with the other flyers that we have, the McWesterns. So, I didn't know if, Matt, have you talked to anybody at the library?
No. I want to get the stuff to bring over there and just have it with me so that way. when I
Okay.
get them. And I-
I have a box if you like it.
Awesome. Perfect.
If I can make a suggestion along with the box to have what we're looking for,
Yeah, I think
a
if you,
colorful flyer to bring your attention to it. I noticed in Town Hall, it's
Oh, yeah, you
extremely
mentioned that.
unnoticeable.
Yeah.
We could just print the big orange, what we had come up with
That'd
a
be great.
postcard, if we just make them bigger, then it'll be.
Do we have any
Right.
the plastic things at the district? The things that you could put up.
Sure
flyer
we
in?
do, yeah. I can look.
All right.
that's what I have at the town hall, and she's right there, hard to see. So I think if it's something bigger, not poster board size, but maybe legal size, something that can just bring your attention to it.
You could do it on maybe the 11x17 paper.
Yeah.
Tabloid, yep. All right,
And then do the orange one.
Let me know if you when you do this.
Stretch it.
I'll come grab one for the library.
We'll just do it tomorrow.
And then I was waiting for signs for the for the dump too.
okay, so I got a few here
Cool.
of the yard signs. Brian's got the rest in his office.
Okay. I can go. I'll have to go to his office anyways to get the.
Do we got the, okay on the dump? And, will they let us tag one to the door of the recycling place? Because that's where people are gonna walk up and buy it.
I'm gonna go ask them.
Okay.
All
When we
right,
talked to the town administrator, did you cover that already?
I covered the nothing along Albuquerque
Okay.
portion of it.
What about the rec stuff?
Yeah, the rec, yes, I already covered the
Okay.
rec stuff I went there Tuesday night, they said, go ahead and plaster it, 10 to 15 tops, they gave us a couple of good ideas as well.
Beautiful.
So, kind of keep them out of the way of maintenance of like the fields and stuff. If there's the kiosk, the signs, the posters, you can stick them there as well. If you've got like fenced off areas to like the gates to get into the courts, you drill a couple holes and zip tie it right there on the fence next to it. They have no issues with that. That was it.
Cool, perfect.
All right, so with that, Joe Lassard said he'll take all of that for the rec commission stuff, the rec committee stuff. Matt, you're gonna go talk to the stuff for the dump. Is that something that we can get done this weekend?
Yeah.
Okay,
How about the over 55 housing? How are we doing with that?
so that was a Rich and Bob assignee. I don't know,
My mother
Was Bob
lives
here for
in-
that?
I think Rich drafted him.
I think Rich did draft
My mom lives
him.
in Dixon, she's on the board, so I can definitely get them on board.
Cool. Okay.
But they won't do a QR code because most of them are like 70 or 80.
We can bring the paper ones.
Yeah, they're gonna have their meeting in a couple weeks, so if we have get some. from
I mean,
them,
an invitation to a meeting where we can hand those out would be,
I'll see if I can go to one of the meetings with my mother. I'm sure they'll love me there, so.
If you need printed copies, we can get you printed copies.
And if we need to get a box, I'm sure we can find a box.
Yeah,
Did I spell your last name correctly?
you did?
Oh, right. I normally just do spell check, like the F7 spell check everything.
I'm used to people spelling Lamontagne my entire life, so. First try.
All right, so town hall is complete.
Yeah, I picked up twice from there. Probably have about 10 surveys
Okay.
out of the 2 times I picked up there. So I restocked it. When did I go there? I went there Tuesday. So I restocked it on Tuesday, changed out the
There are like
box.
40 houses.
I'll drop by again in another week or so.
All right, Brian, were you able to talk to the fire station?
I have not yet, but I will. I should have, I met with them yesterday. Should have done it yesterday.
And then I've got Town of Litchfield page. So I think that's like the Facebook page, not the website.
Yeah, those are
Yeah,
all the Facebook pages. So I don't know if have they been on all those other ones. I've seen it on the What's Up page. But
Yeah,
in the, all the school stuff, right?
It's been on the school ones, it's been on at least the JMS PTO, it has been on the What's Up. And I
Yep.
believe it's been on Litchfield Moms, but beyond that's the extent of our reach.
okay,
Do we want to put it up on the What's Not Up Litchfield page?
There's a What's Not Up.
there
Oh,
is.
If someone's on there,
See, I'm not up on all the pages.
yeah.
They didn't add me.
Is that a member?
So I did email John Brunel about the town website, about getting it on the town website, and I never got a response back from John on that.
Well, we're doing them a favor in our weekly newsletters this week, so maybe they can do us a favor.
So, and that's, I mean, I emailed them, I don't know if someone's got a phone number that they could call, or I could call, or go from there. Or if he's gonna watch this later and realize that I just called him out.
We're in town hall in about an hour.
So, there's that, Pumpkin Fest, Joe, you already did that.
Nope, that hasn't happened yet.
Oh, that's right, you did Fall
I did
Fest.
Fall Fest, Pumpkin Fest. I do have permission, and we're all set for that. I'll set up a table there and hang out for the night. Fall Fest was this last weekend. I hung out there. Probably got about 13, 14 responses.
Okay. PTO
Good
meetings.
conversations.
So we get to talk to, is there anybody on the PTO that we can talk to have it brought up in the meetings?
I brought it up 2 nights ago.
We just missed the PTO meeting at the high school this week, but I can email Margaret Norton, she's the president of the PTO at the
Okay.
high school.
Yeah, GMS PTO is looped in.
Okay.
They're having a clothing drive next Saturday morning from like 8 to 3, the PTO at the high school.
Yeah,
So-
I think I've seen that.
Yeah, so maybe we can get some
Okay.
signs or something for that. I'll talk to Margaret.
You don't mean the 12th, you mean the 17th?
19th,
19th.
Saturday 19th.
We did the rec committee in the town newsletter. Did you talk to the admin about the newsletter?
So, I did not, I need to reply back. I don't know if is it the admin? The town administrator, you mean?
Yes.
Yeah, so I I need to respond to her because I got off on the sidetrack about the rec. And then I forgot to reply back to her.
Okay,
I'll go do that after.
Do we
All right.
know how many responses we have total so far?
Yes.
Almost 400.
How much did the other survey get, around
1,000.
1,000?
Or a little bit more.
Still got a ways to go.
But they had the benefit of,
Yes.
they were
There.
tackling people at the door when they were voting, which was
At
very
the
smart.
best attended election.
Yeah, yeah.
November.
I mean, I don't, I,
even primaries was really well attended this year.
We can't.
That was a town election, and this one was a federal.
Are the
Was the
Girl-
explanation that we
Are the Girl
got.
Scouts allowed inside?
Hmm?
Are the Girl Scouts allowed inside to sell cookies?
I don't think anyone was allowed inside on a federal.
No,
Nope,
there was nobody.
That was the explanation that we got.
nope.
That the
No,
town
they're
has,
selling
the town has
donuts
more
outside.
oversight over a town election than they do over a federal or state.
So Denise, before you got here, I did ask Brian about if I brought a patio heater and propane tanks, will he kick me off on election day? He says no, but I probably have to talk to the town moderator to do that.
Okay.
So, if I
I thought you said
can.
we could be outside.
Yeah, so we can be outside, but it's gonna be November
Oh, yeah, but
5th.
I mean, as long as you don't burn the building down, I think we're.
That'd be great if you could not burn.
They let me fire up a propane grill, so I
Okay.
think we'll be safe.
Okay,
Maybe like 12 tanks, those things burn quick.
Would
I-
anyone to that effect like to sign up to be there with me? I know a couple of the candidates, and Mr. Bob will obviously be there, but in a different roles.
I will take.
I emailed you
a spot. I just haven't seen what time I can.
Perfect.
Yeah, I'm in the same
Couple
boat.
hours.
I will go in and sign up for sure. I just
So-
don't know which slots.
so I've already got the approval to take the day off for election and stuff, so I will try to be there the majority of the day to help out in any way. My wife has offered to bring food and snacks.
To that effect, I think you mentioned it as well, like, can we bring refreshments to share with people? Is that allowed?
It's not Georgia.
I think you'll find that if you try to do something like that, the moderator will shut you down.
Okay.
Because the definition for electioneering is pretty precise. They don't even want you like giving them a sheet of paper that can get into the polls, so be real careful with that, or at least call them first before you spend the money on it.
Cause say the high school, was it the cheerleaders did it
Somebody was
on the
selling donuts,
primaries?
but they were
Yeah, they were
selling
doing
the,
donuts.
I think that's
Senior
different than
class.
just providing it for free.
Oh,
They were selling donuts.
Right.
Yeah.
So if you're gonna talk about the heater, anyway, just ask the question.
Okay.
Just so we know.
Yep,
And if we can, then use some of that budget that we have to
So we
pick up some
definitely,
stuff.
I mean, obviously, it's still a few weeks away, but we definitely, that's our last opportunity, really, to get surveys. So, we definitely, I mean, we have one 55 plus that we can hit. I really, really wanna try to get into the 55 pluses, because I really wanna hear their opinions.
yep.
And so we definitely need to try to like make a push for that, because the election is really gonna be like, hopefully, hopefully that'll push us over the edge to getting a meaningful, or
So-
supporting meaningful result. But
I think Rich commandeered Bob to help him out with that, but it originally before tonight, Jason mentioned one, Rich said he was gonna reach out as well.
Yeah. We can see with Rich.
Alright. So we did that, we can, what time is it?
Are we through the survey stuff?
Not all of the survey stuff, no. Alright, so I guess it's the next steps. It's 5:54.
Okay.
So, next step, so I know, Matt, you said roughly by this weekend you're gonna get through the other stuff that you had to do.
Yeah.
Jason, I don't know when you plan on being able to go over there, is it just whenever their next meeting is?
I'll reach out to Mother this afternoon or tonight and just find out when the next meeting is, and if not, I'll bring them my packet. Cause I can bring it right to the community center there.
Okay,
Jason, which one are you in?
My mother lives in Dixon.
Does anyone else in here have any contact with the boards of 55 pluses? No?
I have one down at Gilchrist.
Would you be open to? Yeah.
I'll reach out to fellow I know.
Yeah.
Do you know what name that is, just so I can put it in the notes?
Gilchrist Farms.
Gilchrist Farms, okay.
Nope, wrong person. All right, so the other Joe, when you probably need what, a week or so to get through the stuff for the rec fields?
Oh, I'll have it done before that, yeah,
Okay, so,
at the most.
Do we have, I'm sorry, do we have flyers in addition to those things tonight, you know, for a bulletin board? Do you have any of those with you?
I
You don't have
didn't
with
print
us, but
any
There's one
off.
designed.
Yeah, there is one designed, I just didn't print them
I don't
off.
think so.
I just got from tomorrow.
Okay. Superintendent still print them.
Yeah,
We all want
so
the bigger ones, right? for
Yeah,
all of
I think
these?
we should do the
So-
bigger ones.
that's the flyer that we
It's
designed,
designed as a. 8.5
that we could put
hour.
on bulletin boards and stuff.
That should be probably that size.
Yeah, yep, it's letter size.
Okay.
And then,
There's the orange one, right?
right,
That you can do in like a landscape kind of.
Yeah. I like the bigger paper.
Can you just send that,
then
you
there's
know,
that
the other
one.
one
Yep,
out? And I think the easiest thing to do is just send that to who I know and probably
Oh,
others.
absolutely, yeah.
And then they probably have an email chain. That probably is more effective to
Oh,
know.
absolutely, yeah. That's
Yep.
great.
So do, just if somebody wants to send it to me.
Yeah.
Do go that way with it.
so I'll do,
Also, Ron, just so you know, we did have Renee update the, district website, so it's an active
I saw
hyperlink
that.
too, so you can,
In fact,
if we don't have that, you can also send them there, cause they can just click.
well, I've sent people to that,
Yeah.
actually.
anybody else want the flyers? The 2 PDFs for the flyers that I can send out to anybody?
Send it to me, I'll distribute it to the Lions.
It's in the Gmail drive.
Yeah, it's in the shared drive, but I figured if I'm gonna send them out, I can put several people on it.
Send it to me as well, please.
All right. So then, I guess, to finish filling that out, I can hit a few things this weekend since I was told to get lost by my wife for the weekend, so I've got some free time. The other aspect for the rest of the survey, or that spreadsheet, I think we're doing okay. The next question is, with the rest of the funds that we have remaining, what are the other, how do we wanna use
How
those?
much do we have remaining? Do we know?
560.
So Andrew mentioned that he thought that they were able to do a direct mailer for something at like a reasonable.
So, yeah, so let's jump into that. I did some research over the weekend on a mailer, and to send a postcard to the entire town and print them would be roughly, depending on how complex the postcard is, anywhere from $1,500 to $1,800.
Never mind.
I would suggest doing into after the election's over too. I think it'll just get,
The only problem is we have to have the results.
Right.
It's gonna take-
I mean, I think
Within
the
2 days
direct,
after.
I think the direct mail is the best way to go.
Extended? If it's an all or none, if we don't get enough results, they'll have no data.
Yeah, potentially.
I mean, I think a direct mailer is our best bet to reach the majority of the town, right? We can get all these events, but we're hitting a lot of the same people, and the mailer is gonna get you to the most people the fastest. So I would like to propose we go back to the school board and ask for additional funds to do the mailer.
Duly noted.
I
They're
think
gonna
at
love
this time of year, with what's going on with the elections and stuff, and how much junk mail is in the mail.
Is that what you're saying after the elections?
Yeah.
Well, that's what Denise was saying.
Oh, after the election,
Whether
yeah.
we do it after or whatever, I
think-
still think it's your best bet to get to the most people.
I'd actually be cautious because the last mailing that was sent out pissed off a lot of people. So, because it was flashy, it was high, like,
We're not gonna be flashy.
no, I would just be careful, like, oh, we have money for this.
Right, so, cause,
I'd also be careful because the budget meetings are getting to the point where the meat's gonna start getting cut because of, we're over the caps and stuff like that. And you just asked for 1,000 and now
It's the school board
$1,800.
versus the town, though. School board doesn't have a tax
Hey,
cap.
my taxes
I-
don't make any difference.
I hear you, and I would love to hear you say that over
So
there.
here's the thing,
Yeah,
right?
I'm-
Like, at the end of the day, if we don't get enough meaningful data, then all that's gonna happen is everyone's gonna say, well, you only had 400 responses, so
Right.
like, you don't really know what the town wants, right? And then we're back at the same place we were, you know, or that we've been at for however many years now.
right,
So we do need to figure that out. So if people have other ideas, and we're at 400 right now, we need to get to at least
Roughly
over
double.
1,000,
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
So,
And preferably more, because I don't want people to be coming back and saying, we didn't want this. Like, we
Right.
wanna know what you want.
so
That's what we're
Joe,
asking.
I know a while ago I sent you information on getting direct mailer postcards printed. There were 4x6.
Yeah.
That was like it was like 400 to get 3,000 of them printed.
It's the postage too.
The post.
Right, but then it's going to the post office to do the postage distribution.
Where did?
Well, but then you have the problem, if you're
Next
not
day
doing the,
flyers
you
is the
can't
best
do that,
way
because you
on
have to do the whole town, because then who are
Right.
you gonna send? Like, how do you pick who you send it to? I
Well,
mean,
actually, if you go to the post office website, you can pick by street.
No, I know, but my whole point is that you don't wanna pick by, like,
No.
I don't wanna be responsible for picking by
No.
street and then being told.
Yeah, no.
You selected those people, cause
Yeah.
So,
whatever.
It
okay,
takes 3,300 to do the whole town.
What?
3,300 to do the whole town
That's a
by
weird
next
number.
day fly.
The post
Yeah.
office said like 3,100, but
Yeah,
because I went online and I pushed it all in, and like they pick the streets, and
And it depends if you take the businesses and stuff in and
I did.
out.
I took the businesses out. It let you pick
Wait, so
between
I thought you said
residences,
I think you said 1,500
People.
3,100.
3,100 residences
like homes.
to mail to.
So the price is what? 1,800?
Yeah.
And that's the high end, right? Like it all depends on how elaborate your print is,
Well, we
Right.
don't have to have elaborate print.
right? Single sided, double sided.
You can do I've done it before, you can do a 6x9 card through through Next Day Flyers, but you only get, 3,000 or 4,000 is how they work it,
Right.
so.
Yeah.
If you do 3,000, you're gonna leave off 100 addresses that aren't gonna get it. And the post office also requires that they're bundled in, bundles of 100. So if you do it through like Every Door Direct, or, Next Day Flyers, they'll put those in groups of 100 for you. And I think there's 5 delivery routes here.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
Alright, so next day flyers, and you're saying it's 1,500 to 1,800.
And that's just rough numbers, right? Like
Right.
Put in, but
So do we need to do
That's-
artwork or anything, like if we do the orange flyer on one side and then we do basic wording on the other side with the address?
like I said, it gets more expensive if you go two sided or one sided, and
And you have to use the templates because where the Inacia and
Okay.
the, and stuff on there has to meet the computer.
Yep.
Computer layouts, so.
So is there a motion there?
I'd motion to ask the school board for the funds to a mail.
So all I would ask though is that we not spend any more of this money, because I don't wanna, like,
Yep,
Yeah, use this.
I don't wanna
money
go
and-
ask for another
Yes.
$1,500.
yes. Use this money for the rest of the stuff, right? The posters, the banners, the outdoor banners that we can put up on chain link fences at the dump and stuff.
So what if we did it? I agree that I think that if we're gonna do any sort of direct mailer, it should be done after the election, cause I agree that there's too much mail coming. for everyone.
It just gets diluted.
I think that that's smart.
Ask if we don't get enough.
If we do, that's my thought, is if we don't get a certain amount of, responses by the election. Cause I am cognizant of, like, I don't wanna just spend money on things if we don't need to, but
What is
we
your
absolutely do need to have a meaningful sample.
I would say 800 or there.
Yeah, because I would agree, it has to be somewhere 800 to 1,000 responses, and I don't think you're gonna get there just by the outreach that we've been doing, right? Because like I said, I was there all day at that Fall Fest, I
Yeah.
got 13 people.
You have roughly
It's gonna
3,000
take a long time
voters,
to get there at that rate.
so you want 25% of your voters.
So responses has to be greater than or equal to
Roughly
800?
3,300. Last election, from what I remember.
So responses has to be greater than or equal to 800?
I will, I think that the school board will probably wanna chime in on that, so.
Okay.
I can propose that number to them, but say, you know, we would only be asking for this money if we haven't hit that amount by the end of the election.
Alright. Sounds good. So with the rest of the funds, the rest of the 560 that we have, what are proposals to use it for?
I would propose that
not
we
use
really
it.
try to keep it tight, so we don't have to ask for another, 1,500, instead just have to ask for 1,000.
I think between the stuff that we can print, the flyers and stuff, and the lawn signs, you can use as posters, right? Just take the stand off and
Okay.
stick it wherever you want it.
So then just leave the
We
rest of the
just-
560 to go towards this, so we would be
Sit on it for now.
asking roughly 1,100 or so, if I go for the midpoint. Alright,
Do we have big banners?
No.
no. That's why I
Made
had
some.
that up there.
I got some poster board, made some paint, that's how I put it on the table.
Well, from the primary, I just noticed like, we were sitting there in our pop-up, but
I
there
think
wasn't a lot of like, come and see what's going on,
Right.
appeal to that.
that might be a good use of, like, if we do, well, really just one, right? Because we only set up a table.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm thinking just one. Staples, I mean, I got 2 of them made in 2019 at Staples for a little bit for a few chunks of changes. Like, it wasn't horribly expensive.
I didn't look into it, but the real estate people that were next to me at the Fall Fest had one of those vinyl banners. They said they got it on Amazon for $50.
Yeah.
The one we have for the Wall of Heroes at GMS, I think cost $65.
Yeah.
So
And
I
that's,
would
and
say-
that's with the grommets. The like to have it pre-stamped with the grommets is like an additional.
So let's do one,
5%
let's do one.
So one
And do you
banner.
want it to, I wish Jen was here, she could design it. We can ask Jen, I'll text Jen and ask her if she wants to design
You
it.
have it at the dump and bring it to the polls when we need to.
A tabling banner is all is what we
Yeah.
really need. Like, so anytime we're tabling, we have something to put out
Yeah.
there.
Yep.
What
Alright.
really worked at the primary though is we actually had to make eye contact
Oh, yeah, talk.
Yeah.
and
Well, if you,
approach people.
if you've been out there, like, I mean, I was doing it that one day, like, you should, like, really, hey, do you wanna take a survey? It's really important that you take a survey.
Yeah, no, it's what Joe and I had to do too.
They will
Like-
not walk up to you if you
Yeah.
don't like step in front of them and say, hi, how are you?
Yep.
So,
But not over those cones.
correct,
Right.
don't go over the cones.
All right, so we already talked about the election day sign up. Denise brought it up. A few people have responded that they're gonna look into their availability. So I think it's going on 6/10.
Yeah,
You
I
wanna-
think it's a good time to transition.
One quick thing. Do we need to actually motion on him asking the school board, or is that just a thing you can go do?
You already made a motion, so.
Well, I thought you were gonna wait till after the election.
But he's got, the school board meeting's next week,
Yeah,
so
I
he
think
needs
they
to
want
ask
me to
them next
ask
week.
yeah.
So ask it, so I guess the motion would be is if by elections or after elections, we do not have
More than 800.
more than 800 responses, could we get funds to do a direct mailer to the town? So then that way there's that time delay, gets us through the elections, and then it's a if-then statement. to
Is there
do it.
anyone in here that thinks that 800 is not statistically significant enough?
That's,
Bob?
I don't think there is a number.
That's
What
statistically.
do you think?
Well, I think in the March election, you had 1,600 and some odd people vote against the new school.
Right.
You gotta get numbers that are gonna be reflective of that, to be, if your goal at all is to proceed with any kind of a new school.
I
So-
think,
Well,
You
no,
can't
but
get
this is-
1,000 responses and get 700 that say, build a new school, and say, well, we got a mandate, because the mandate was in March.
What percentage of those people voting would you consider representative? We had roughly 3,300 people
Yeah.
vote.
A little less than that.
No, we had 2,000
Yeah,
something.
well, it was 1,600 and something out of 2,800.
And that was
So
66%, so there was,
Yeah, it was 66%.
there was 2,200 people or something like that.
so 2,800,
So 2,800,
50% is 14,
so about 30%.
yeah.
Yeah,
30% I would-
67, 43, I think, or 66 and some change versus 43 and some change.
I think though, with this, making the effort, you can't force people to fill it out.
Right.
But as long as we say, you know, we've done everything, we've met in areas, we've done a direct mailer, this is the number we got from the town. That shows how interested the town is in actually participating and saying something.
I
Yeah.
agree, but those people will go to the voting booth and vote nonetheless. I think if we have.
But they're gonna
not-
do that either way.
If we have 933 people who vote, that's 30% of the people who voted in March. That would seem to be statistically significant to me.
How many?
Like,
What was it?
933.
Okay. So let's use that number then.
So either 930,
What do you think,
950 to
Bob?
make it nice and round.
What?
Does that math make sense?
30% of the voters?
If you get 30% responses, but if of that 30% of the responses, if 70% of them say they want a new school, is this committee gonna proceed with a new school? Because if you get 900 voters and maybe 500 or 600, but that's still way less than the 1,600 and some odd that voted against.
Then those people should make sure to fill out the form. If they don't,
Yeah.
that's on them.
This is a dead horse that's been beaten and
Yeah.
beaten and
So,
beaten,
but
and we
you-
keep
because-
rehashing it. and we
So
keep
what's
rehashing
an
it.
alternative solution?
This town has said no several times.
It'd be unfortunate to go through this and then be like, oh, we have an idea what the town wants, and then have it vote no again. So that's the whole
Right.
thing we're trying to
And
prevent.
in the meantime,
Right,
we've
I agree.
wasted another year where Griffin has had nothing done to it, really.
I don't think, no matter how many you get, you'll actually have a definitive answer. I really don't.
The only time you'll ever have an answer is at the end of the day in election.
But at
That's
the
the
end of
only
this,
time.
at the end of this process, we have to at some point make a decision as a committee as to what we're going to pursue, whether it's one or more options, but like, we need to get to the next level of some option, right? And
Right.
that's what this is ultimately, we're trying to figure out which direction the town wants us to go. So, Bob, you keep saying a new school, like that's one thing, but there's multiple other options that we could be looking at. And ultimately, I'm questioning like, well, what of those, if there's something that they prefer, is it a renovation and addition, great, like, tell us so that we know.
Well, the one thing they did tell you was no to a new build.
No,
At
they told
$44
us
million.
no to that proposal.
Which has
And
happened
they
on
said
other,
no to the proposal before that, and no to the proposal before that.
And before that.
but haven't other things failed that have come back on the
How many
ballot?
times do you have to be told no?
How many times does it take to vote for this place?
Did the town hall fail a bunch of times?
Once.
Once.
And back then you needed 66%, and it failed to 66% by 13 votes. But it was only one time.
Thanks.
Okay?
I mean, I'm still going with whatever the survey comes back with, like that's.
Fire
I think the
department
direction we
failed
need to go.
once too.
Fire department failed once too, yep.
Things fail, you gotta
Not four,
keep trying.
but once.
Different proposals, different structures, different options.
Does that lead us into my question?
Okay, so we'll pick the number 900.
Well,
Alright.
I guess, I mean, there are statistical rules, right? So you can decide what kind of margin of error you want to have, and plug in answers to a whole bunch of questions, and statistically, they'll tell you what is representative for a population of, if we go with 2,200 or however many people we've got. So, I mean, if you want to be,
30% should be statistically
that's a
significant.
huge population size. I mean, you can go as little as
And we've made every
15%
effort
and
to have
it
everyone
be-
fill it out.
I think that's
Have it be
that seems
representative.
achievable.
The only difference with those type of figures is this criteria that they analyze the condition or the profile there of those respondents, and they have to fit a profile, which they asked them questions. And we didn't do that in the survey, so we have no idea of the profile of these respondents. They may be 900 people that, or it won't be 900, but majority may have voted yes for the school.
Well, that's why it's so critically important for us to get this out. Like I've been saying all
Get
along,
that
we don't want to just get responses from people that are connected to the schools. Like, that's critical.
You need the largest sampling you can get.
right, but
Yeah.
I don't want to make a rule that says it's 900 or
But
30%.
the 900
And
is
then
just
have
to
it, and then
decide
have
what-
it, somebody say, well, we only got 25% instead of
Town of Litchfield
30%,
just
so it's
posted
not
it.
valid. I mean, there are
Nice.
statistical tests you do.
So he was watching.
Yep. Thanks, John.
Yeah, I think it's really just about
Yeah.
asking the school board for more money.
For the mailer.
Yeah, so, yeah, and I think this is a rough order, right? Going from there, so the 900 to 950 range works. Because of the time criticality, I think we should get on to the
Yes.
710 item. Has everyone had a chance to review the GMS relevant section? Yes, Mr. Mitchell.
Point of order before we move on. What did we decide on trigger number, and is there a motion that Mr. Shoemaker is bringing to the board? Just for notes purposes.
No, that's exactly right.
So let's go with 933 for now, which is the 33% with 30% as the sample. And I guess I will make the motion if we get less than 933 responses, can we have the
By the
school
end of
board
election day.
after the election day?
How far afterwards?
By the end of the election day, at the end of the day that we're out there.
Okay,
November 6th.
okay.
That's an easier way of saying it.
At November 6th, if we do not have 933 survey responses, can we have the school board representative go back to the school board to ask for more funds to issue out a direct mailer to the town?
Up to $1,300, because we hopefully will have 500.
Up to $1,300.
Slight adjustment to that, can we ask that question at the next school board meeting, which is next week, as opposed to waiting till after the election to ask that question?
Okay,
You ask for approval up front. If we
Yeah.
don't use it, we don't use it.
Right.
Let me write this out and then I'll read it back to the committee.
Can I suggest 1,500 just in case it's a little bit more?
Sure. That's fine. You're not the one that has to present it to us, so that's fine. You can suggest whatever you want.
Okay, so the motion as it reads in the minutes right now is, hold on, I haven't read this yet, so I may sound like an idiot. Dan DeWitt motioned that Mr. Shoemaker request that the school board expend $1,500 on a direct mailer if the number of responses to the survey is not 933 on November 6th. I'm gonna reword that because it sounds like it has to be exactly 933, but you get the general gist of the idea. Roughly, yeah.
At least 933 at the end of November 6th. Okay, let's move on to the other thing, because I really want
All
to
right.
make sure we have enough time.
We-
well,
Second.
second,
Oh,
Second.
all in favor?
all in favor?
Aye.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10 in favor?
Bob's a no, I assume.
I'm abstaining,
Okay.
because I don't wanna step on your toes, but
Thanks, Bob.
I just wanna make my feelings known.
All right, appreciate that.
One abstain. All right, on to the next item. So, has everyone, there was the email request that everyone review the HL Turner report in the GMS section. I'm assuming you meant just mainly the GMS section?
No. The whole thing, and I'll tell you why. But, ask your question first.
Has everyone had a chance to review the HL Turner report?
Yeah.
Some of it.
We've had the opportunity to review it.
Okay,
Has anybody, how many people have not looked at it?
I have not reviewed it yet.
I've seen some of it, but not the whole of it.
Everybody else has looked at it then?
Yeah.
yep.
Okay. All right, can I just then carry forth a little bit and explain the context, and then we go from there?
Sure, looking at timing, I think I budgeted like 15 minutes.
Yep.
Do you think we
Yeah,
can?
no, I want to give him enough time, so please, go ahead.
The reason that I believe the H.O. Turner report is important to look at is going back to what we said a minute ago on the survey, is that once we get the survey information, we need to look at options. The H.O. Turner report actually represents one of the options that we have not discussed, and that is repair of the existing GMS structure. We have talked about new. We've had Kyle Barker come in and give us an option for a renovation of the existing, and then renovation with an addition. We have not talked about repairs to GMS, or for that matter, any of the other buildings. I do admit and support that Onsite Insight will be doing a needs assessment in the near future, which will actually be a companion to the H.L. Turner report. The importance of the H.L. Turner report is the content of it, but more importantly, what it says as far as the relative cost of repairs compared to everything else that we've been talking about. And so, with that, oh, Brian, did you print,
Yeah.
did you pass that out?
I only printed 12 copies, I didn't know how much, so people
I printed my
may
own.
need to share.
Okay,
I have the original.
thank you. And while he's doing that, the importance of this is, this was done in 2017.
It's two things, so make it.
And I've gone through all the reports. I can't find anywhere in the meeting minutes anywhere, and maybe Terry, you can help me, but I don't. Okay.
Can I ask a question? Is this from the report?
Oh, you didn't print the, I don't think that's the one.
It went around this way?
Oh,
Is there one that
two
has
Two
different
different
ones.
ones.
It's that one, but it's also supposed to be a Excel sheet.
She has that one.
Those were the
We
two
have
that
two
were in
different
the
ones.
file.
Oh, is there another stack somewhere around?
If I,
I think one's going this way. I think they're.
sorry.
Can I ask a question as well?
That's just that.
When they originally presented the H.L. Turner report, did anyone come to the meeting to explain it to the group? That we could rewatch?
No, at the time, they weren't recording video, the meetings. So I don't believe the meeting was recorded.
But they did explain it to the group at least.
The group was the one who vetted H.L. Turner. We went through the report line by line with the facilities. So the group itself went through. There was a recommendation made to the school to bond $4 million to address all 3 buildings,
And that's.
and then it died.
And that's the importance of the H.L. Turner report. Because, exactly as Carrie said, if you go through the H.L. Turner report, the entire renovation of all 3 schools for the next 15 to 20 years of capital needs was $4 million.
Renovations or repairs?
Repairs. Sorry.
Sir.
Thank you for correcting me.
At the time, it was stated that the $4 million would bring the schools up to where they needed to be for that moment in time. Did not necessarily address any expansion that may or may not have been needed,
Correct.
but would bring the buildings to where they needed to be.
State of good repair.
Yep.
Yeah, and H.L. Turner's numbers in there looked at a 5-year horizon. So the numbers of the 4 million was phased out over 5 years from that point of view.
Well, there was a discussion in the group to just bond it, leverage.
I understand, but I just wanted, for the
Right.
context of this discussion.
Yeah.
It looked at 5 years, and then it actually looked at items beyond the 5 years but did not price them. One being the roof for GMS as an example. But it did note in future years what you would need to be considering for all 3 schools. So this is the context. So that was $4 million. If you escalate that 4 million to, it was actually, if you add them all up, it was actually a little more than 4. Back then,
There were some things that were removed.
and the sprinkler was one of them I think you took out.
We took that out. We also took out the doors because the doors actually are fire rated. They just were painted over when the volunteers
Okay.
went through. So when they stripped some of the paint, the fire rating of the existing doors actually exceeds what is recommended in the
Yep.
report. So those were pulled out as needing to be done. And there were additionally other items that were discussed to be done in-house by facilities. So when we went through it, we went line by line, and facilities said, we can do this, but we can't do this. We can do this, but we can't do this. So there was a list of items that were expected to be handled in-house, and a list of items that were gonna be contracted out.
Okay, good. So if you take all the numbers that are in here without any deductions or
Right.
whatever, and you escalate them to today's dollars, all repairs that were identified by H.L. Turner comes up to $9.5 million in today's dollars. And that includes,
But that's your estimate.
no, it's this. I escalated the numbers.
And so I just want to be clear that that's your estimate, not something official in the report.
Correct.
And it doesn't account for any of the deterioration of the building over the last 7 to 8 years.
With some exceptions, that the answer is, the conditions that are there today, I will admit, there are things that, in the Turner report, that needs to be done today. The roof being, GMS being one, as a for instance. They did identify other things that would need to be done beyond the 5 years that they actually priced. So yes, there are things beyond that. In
Yes,
fact, the
so-
$10 million that I just escalated would need to now include a roof for GMS as a for instance. So we would be at 10-point roof right now, using on-site insights numbers at $10 a square foot would be around $580,000. So what it boils down to is repairs in today's dollars at $10 million for all 3 schools. If you look at it simply for GMS, the numbers for
What sheet are you on?
well, I thought
I'm sorry, those were the two that I had.
These are the two that you sent.
And I thought I double checked them, so I
I
apologize.
apologize.
This is what I downloaded from the email.
Let me see.
I have 3 sheets of paper.
Yeah, that's the one I needed, that
That's
one
the
there.
second
I only
page.
got 2.
It's on the email. This is one.
Okay, I missed that one, I apologize.
And that's the, unfortunately, the important one. But anyway, let me speak to it. So, GMS alone, repairs right now, according to the HL Turner report, escalated to today's dollars, would be $3.5 million, which includes the installation of a sprinkler system. Without the sprinkler system, it is $2.8 million.
Does that take into account the cost increase of products?
Yes, that's escalated, that's that, thank you.
1.45.
That's from the federal price index. I escalated using that. That's what Carl Barker used in his escalation numbers as well. That same price index. So, let me just read the items that are included, that $2.8 million. Pavement and base gravels, windows in the east and south buildings, sprinkler system, north restrooms were non-ADA, need renovation. Interior lights all go to LED. The temperature control system would be completely redone. The air handling system would be replaced. The exhaust fans be replaced and the boilers replaced. So the whole heating system gets done. And a sprinkler system. The point of this, and I'm not asking anybody to go in and look at the details of that. That's not what I'm asking. I'm asking for you to realize that the repairs option is a viable option that is tens of millions of dollars less than a renovation or a new school.
If
That
we-
doesn't, that
It's
does,
a
but
viable
but
option to
does
address
not
the
address any
structure.
educational
Wait a minute,
needs, right?
I disagree with you. I disagree
So
with
you
you on
think
both of them.
it addresses our educational
It
needs?
gets kids off the stage for classroom?
It provides
Yes.
room for
Yes.
special needs kids to have. facilities.
Wait, just one thing at a time. You gotta look at this in totality. You have to fix what's there now, and then say, what do you need to do in addition to fix it? And I got all kinds of ideas how to tackle this. One of them being some of the options we had, move other grades to other schools. If you move a grade out of GMS, you have the space, all you need. If you don't, there's a discussion here of renovating 1930s building, space for 4 classrooms. There's all kinds of relatively inexpensive options to take care of all this. But you need to consider, what do we need to do to fix the existing building to make it good for the next 15, 20 years? And that's what this represents. And I will, like I say, I'm not asking you to go and, stop putting together warrant articles with base HL Turner. I want to see what comes out of the onsite. But this is the order of magnitude of what the repairs are.
So
Just let me finish. And this question was removed from the survey. This question is not on the survey.
It was decided that the majority of the folks in town did not understand the differences between the 3 choices. And the majority of people, when you get right down to it, don't know the difference between a repairs only and a renovation of a building without repairs.
What I would say is, I think, to that point, if the overwhelming response is renovation, right, just the renovation, no addition, then I think that this is absolutely something that we are going to dig into very heavily, because I would agree that this is the basis, in many regards, this is the basis of a renovation. It's just that you're not doing everything that you would do in a renovation, right?
Well, no.
What else
No,
would encompass a renovation if
renovation-
not these things?
So
No addition.
this is where I agree with Ron that a renovation can also mean restructuring the building, moving walls, moving classrooms
Agreed.
and stuff.
Right.
It can also
This-
not mean those things.
What?
What Ron is talking about would not include those.
Right.
That would be just bring it up to a state of good repair. So
I mean,
this is where I think if we go down the path of a renovation look, we would need to look at the repair only and then accentuate afterwards, right? So reassess as Ron's suggesting, then look at additions, look at renovate the 30s. Or is this a renovation with an addition, with or without an addition?
And in my opinion, like, all that is encompassed within the word renovation, right? You can take a renovation as far as you want it to go.
But-
It could just be, we're gonna renovate this one wing and bring it up to current
So-
standards, or we're gonna go full-blown, tear down, re-gut the 1930 section and redo it inside of it.
So that's the point in the basis of what Ron's discussion was, is that I would agree with you, but other people don't. Just like I don't agree that Kyle Barker's assessment of a renovation, he also included an addition with that. And when I asked him, you have an addition in this and you're calling it a renovation. It's not a renovation at that point. It's a
Is there any
renovation.
changes to renovations plus additions?
Yeah, so and he goes, yeah, but it's replacing this. I was like, it's the optics, it's how it looks and
Yeah.
on its print
I would
and
agree.
all of that other stuff. So it's people's definition, it's people's own opinions and definition
Right,
of it.
but I think the idea of, if a renovation is supported, we can then dig into those things and get to that level of how far do we
Correct.
wanna take a
because
renovation,
I
and
think
what's
we're-
gonna be included in that renovation. Is it just bringing up to acceptable standard, or is it doing more like moving walls and reconstructing?
Well,
classrooms?
and I think
Right.
Ron and Bob have like both touched on that part of it may be, if you're doing that, right, if you're doing just the repairs only, that it doesn't necessarily mean that you won't do some of the additional stuff down the road. Like
Right.
you're talking about a more tiered approach,
Yes,
but not a true pay-as-you-go, because it wouldn't be.
Yes, it is a
wouldn't be-
pay-as-you-go. See, that's the beauty of it. You are looking at numbers so low that you can pay for it as you go.
What is the total number you said?
Total numbers for GMS?
But I would
Yes.
caution about looking at numbers like this, like,
Yeah,
these
because-
are
Well, I know these are not-
estimates, like, that we've done on the back of the
They-
napkin
they
ourselves,
are-
they're not
they are
done by someone
estimates.
who is putting together a scope of work, and it's actually gonna
But just
go
for
in there and
conversation,
start.
for
Right,
conversation
for
purposes.
conversation
Hey,
purposes.
Joe, wait a minute. What do you think Barker does? Barker's is no more detailed than that.
They had a contracting company in there,
I-
like, they put together an estimate.
No, you know what they did? They walked around, just like you're gonna have your on-site insight, and spent a couple of days there, and then used a spreadsheet for just
Which I
items which he
Right.
did.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, but what I'm saying is the escalation and stuff is not necessarily done in that way.
Kyle Barker
Did some back
also,
of the napkin math here to escalate the numbers from a 7-year-old
so,
report.
so, hold on.
COVID's happened in between.
Joe, hold
Construction
on.
costs are through the roof.
The Fred index is a federally accepted method to escalate over a period of time for services and materials and goods. I use this all the time. That is the federally accepted way to do this and estimate it. So, that is a great point to use that in versus a CPI index or anything else.
And I think for
What-
conversation purposes,
Yeah.
this is for conversation purposes.
Right,
I
so-
know I know that you don't want someone to watch this and say, this is the
This is
end
the
all be all.
end
I
all.
don't,
Right,
I don't
it's
think
not.
Ron is saying, this is what's the number will be on the warrant.
So,
Because
at the
these are
same
rough
time,
numbers.
Kyle Barker also mentioned when he gave those numbers, this is an estimate, this is not a scope number. So, he did the same thing. Either way, if this is the way we go, it's all gotta go get RFP'd and RFQ'd.
With due respect, and I understand your attachment to the Turner report, why don't we wait for the Indeed, the
Well, I think he's
insight
saying we
on
do.
site? And that would be the most relevant current information we have, rather than 7 to 8 years ago. Why would you put the Turner report before any current report?
The reason it's important is for this committee and people listening to realize there is a repairs option. There is 3 options. There's repairs, renovate existing building, and renovate with an addition, and then a new building. So there's 4 options. This group has only talked about 3 of them.
We've talked about 9 options.
In the context of GMS itself,
Well, no, she's right, we've talked about 9 options.
I acknowledge that, so therefore, but in the context of Carl Barker coming in and telling us, you know, what is the options for GMS? There's 4 for GMS, there's 4. Kyle presented 3, this represents number 4.
So,
That's the reason
Yep,
So,
Ron, may I, it's,
Yes,
just
go
for
ahead.
clarification, because really what I'm hearing, and again, I have no vote, so I have no saying this, but I just want to say, really what you're talking about is, we want to set up boundaries. Is it about, our two markers are repairs only to new building and everything in between. We have a minimum and we have a maximum, and you would just like that we recognize that we have a minimum that should have as equal time as the maximum.
Correct.
And everything in between.
So-
Does that summarize it?
yes.
So my belief is that what we're trying to ascertain right now from the community at large, and what we think that they can wrap their heads around at this point is, we're either gonna do something with the building as it is right now, or we're gonna do something with the building as it is right now and add on to it, or we're gonna do a new building altogether, right? Like that, I think big broad strokes, that's like the generalization of it, right? And within that first generalization, if that's, so people are gonna say to us, yeah, we don't want you to add on to the building, which means ultimately that they're saying, we really want you to spend as little money as possible, which is fine, if that's what they say. If they say that they want us to only work within that footprint of the building as it stands right now, then I think we have more work to do to really start to dig deeper into, is it just repairs only where we can present to you whatever the magnitude of numbers that you're estimating? Or, can we come up with an idea? I think at that point, we're presenting two options, right? We're presenting, here's what it looks like just to do repairs, and here's what it looks like to maybe move some walls around, or maybe reconfigure some space. And maybe that's a tiered approach where, and also we may ask down the road that we need to do an addition, as Bob has said before, like maybe you do it in a, staggered thing. But I think I don't think, I haven't, like, put that off. Like, I don't think that that's, like, off the table. I think that that's absolutely something that we're probing for.
Just so long as everyone agrees with that. Because my perception, I've gotten strong resistance to talk about repairing it only.
But you're going off numbers from 7 to 8 years ago, and we have to find someone who can physically do it for that price.
But like Dan said, those escalations, they're realistic. Looking at this list, one thing I see on here on the cost of the LED lights, those are probably less today, because those prices have come way down.
It also depends, because if you go with the simple ones, they got fancy ones now, so there's a
well,
gamut of the scale.
Also assume
So-
there's no deterioration of the building from what they
Right,
estimated.
so, here's, Ron, and I know you mentioned this before, here's kind of where my head's at with looking at this. Is we take what On-Site Insight provides, and then we compare that to this, because that's exactly kind of what I would do. I would look at, hey, here's the new one, here's the old one. Did the new one actually miss anything that the old one said?
Exactly right.
And then what is added to the new one that the old one missed?
Yeah.
And
Or
go
that
from
has
there.
changed since the.
Or that has changed, right,
Yeah.
or which would cover the further deterioration or things that might have been fixed, let's say a boiler goes out and we gotta fix it, so then it would account for that as well and stuff. That's why I wanted to wait for the On-Site Insight, was to be able to run that comparison and look at it. And the only thing that I'm gonna say that I would caution you about grabbing the numbers off of the H.L. Turner report is their numbers, that column was stated opinion of estimated cost. So that was an architect firm's opinion of that estimated cost. So so it's, as everybody knows, right, anything that we put forward is gonna have to go get RFP'd, RFQ'd.
And the one thing I would point out, and that's in one of those sheets, that cost comparison. If you look at this cost comparison, when we're doing the warrant article 6, this is comparing oil versus the
Yep.
LMS, solar and heat pump. So they estimated the cost to redo all the boilers, including all the new control system, is 1.5 million.
Honestly, I would double that for all the piping.
Well, remember, they weren't intending to replace all the piping.
Yep.
Replace and repair of pipe fittings.
So anyway, in the H.L. Turner report, yeah, replacement and repair, so it's not necessarily, H.L. Turner, their number for that, instead of being 5.9, the escalated number that H.L. Turner had is 1.9 million. $400,000 higher than this number was.
Say that one more time?
I'm not following you.
Yeah.
The H.L. Turner number for replacing the entire heating system in LMS,
It's 400,000 more than the actual?
no, it's
That
40,
is whoever
it's
estimated this.
$400,000 more than the folks estimated in 2022 when they were doing a comparison of LMS, the LMS project that's underway now. So this number that's 1.5 million estimated in 2022 that was presented. H.L. Turner's number said that should be now 1.9. Again, verifying that, to me, the H.L. Turner numbers are potentially conservative,
So,
are certainly in the ballpark today.
so, the big thing is like, where are we going, right? And so I think that where I've always envisioned us going is, the first thing we're trying to find out is, what does the community want to see, right? So that way we can really figure out where to focus our efforts. Because if the community says, hypothetically speaking, they say, we want to do renovation with addition, right? Now, if we spend all of our time looking, proactively looking at just doing repairs, but we're gonna have to completely shred that up and now look at it totally differently, it seems like we're spinning our wheels ahead of time.
Yeah.
So I'm not disagreeing, I think that we are, well, first and foremost, we're absolutely gonna be looking at those things regardless. Because we have to be able to understand for the other two options, but we need to know what people are, where they're trying to drive us. Is it truly like just the footprint itself? Because then at that point, we really are doing a comparison of repairs only versus a renovation.
Well, I think, I actually honestly think, pardon me?
Or a consolidation of the schools based on.
Well, yeah, and I mean, that's a good point, right? Because we actually have that question on the survey too. So if they say that, we're not consolidating, GMS is not a school anymore, most likely, right? At that point, if we're consolidating schools, we're using LMS in the high school, because we would obviously get rid of the.
Well, I think,
Previous lane.
without jumping too far ahead, the one logical thing in my mind is to look at the capacity we have within the system. And I'm gonna jump right to the fact that Campbell High School's got some space to take some students.
But ultimately, we can, I mean, you can believe that, right?
Yeah.
But we still need to figure out what the community at large wants to see, because, that's the thing we learned, we just did a $44 million school, the community doesn't support that, right? So we thought we were presenting something great, it wasn't great, so, okay, that's fine. Like, all I care about now is trying to figure out what the community wants, so we can give them the solution that they'll support and get this over with.
We're in a hard spot right here at this very point, because we do not have the survey information. So everything we
Exactly.
talk about is
Yeah.
speculation,
Right.
hearsay, innuendo, you really can't drive,
So-
The one
you
thing
can't drive the project from
The one thing we
that.
haven't spoken about, though, is the educational aspect of the schools. And we've been going for 7 months, and the education of these kids, the special ed kids, have not been addressed at all by this committee.
I think when we started the conversation, originally Denise, we talked about getting the building, what are we gonna do? And then what that looked like, and then how is the operations component gonna be planned into that?
I'm ready to present on that. However, I've just considered that the committee right now is in what I've just described as discovery. Right now we're in discovery.
I
And
think,
so then whenever we pick a path, then I can speak to
I
specifically.
think much like what
pick.
Ron's talking about, I think it's the same thing for that, because ultimately, no matter what we do, we have to address educational stuff. The question is, are we trying to address that as best we can in the current footprint? Or are we addressing that in a new building? Like, that's the spectrum, right? So,
Right.
and the community, we're hoping, is gonna tell us where in that spectrum we're focusing, and then we could come back to them and say, okay, you want us here, these are the things we need, can you support these things at this price?
And the reason Denise, the reason I bring it up now and think we need to talk about it is because once we get the survey, it's going to be, everybody wants to jump to what is it we're going to do quickly. And
Yeah.
using this time now to talk about some of the options before we get there is important. As a, for instance, I'd like to talk about what Barker presented and the pluses and minuses, and really, is a renovation even possible? My feeling is it isn't. A renovation only, as envisioned by Carl Barker, is not possible.
I really thought his plan, I thought the plan for taking down the low-value construction piece of GMS and adding the addition where the portables are is probably one of the best ideas I ever heard. I would have supported that if that came to ballot originally.
Renovation in addition.
Well,
Yeah.
it's the same price as new, though.
But that's where the benefit of consolidating comes in, honestly. And I think there is an educational component to that, because you have students who are in 7th and 8th grade who could benefit from access to higher classes. There are opportunity to expand foreign language by having more access to students who increase the demand. There are benefits academically to increasing the size of the student body at GMS by bringing in junior high. So there are,
CHS, you mean?
making CHS a junior, senior high school.
Yeah.
I think there are absolutely academic benefits associated with that. And then there are, having attended one myself, I had fantastic experience going junior, senior high school. I teach in a 5th through 12th grade school. I have no problems considering CHS becoming a 7th through 12th grade school. I see the absolute social benefits, I see the academic benefits. So you do that, you could address those rooms and start moving people over, and as rooms free up, you address those rooms. So there is a way to address a renovation if we phase it through a consolidation.
I'm going to suggest you probably, and respectfully, suggest you have a more homogeneous sample
I do
student
not.
population than CHS does.
Absolutely not.
You're not more STEM related?
I have a lot of very high number of autistic and very anxious students, many of whom are not identified because culturally it's not acceptable for them to be identified. So yeah, no, the number of special needs students in my school is incredibly high.
That's interesting.
So if I'm just gonna conclude my thought with saying that my intent of highlighting the Turner report was to identify there is a repair option that is very reasonable, could be funded and paid for as we go. It also is nowhere near as disruptive as the renovation, which strips it back to walls, which in my opinion you can't do, and does not kick off the need to bring the entire building to code, which is extremely different and extremely costly. So, I'll stop there.
No, and just on that thought, we would want to make sure of that, because there is a component that Kyle Barker mentioned, that if you do a value of X percentage of the value of the building, you have to bring that up to code. Okay,
And it goes all, it is, there's no definitive number for that.
okay.
And it is based upon what you value the building at.
Yeah.
And I also, well, how do you value the building? The value of the building, the methodologies are as varied as
Yeah.
anything.
Yep.
So the point of that is, there is no definitive. Yes, I would agree that if you are gutting half of the building, then that would be the kickoff. But if the repairs that are visualized here are vastly under that and can be staged in a very orderly manner.
So Ron, the way that I see it, right, like again, I'm just building off of what I said a couple minutes ago.
Yeah.
If the direction from, if what we're getting for feedback is, hey, current footprint, that's what we want to talk about, then I think we're really having a substantive conversation about, like what you're saying for repairs only, is that a feasible option? Yes, it's a feasible option to address condition of the structure only, right? I do not think personally, but again, we have to have a substantive conversation about this, that addresses, that we're able to address many of the educational needs. And there were certain aspects of your proposal that are not easily feasible for us too. I mean, there were parts of it that were saying we were gonna put a monitor by the door so that if we have a kid run out the door, they can catch them. We can't even hire paras, never mind monitors. So there's like all these things that we have to hash through, right, obviously. So I think in order to like really dissect, like that's a lot to dissect, and we absolutely will need to do that if that's the direction that we're provided. But if it's not, it's gonna be tweaked a little bit, I think. If it's a renovation plus an addition, like what Ray was talking about, that's, we're looking at the building completely differently, because what are we keeping, what are we not keeping? And we're gonna look at the same things, but we're gonna be talking about it completely different. Or if it's a consolidation, we're not even looking at really GMS at all at that point.
You're looking at what you need to do to the other schools to make that happen.
That doesn't necessarily mean you get completely rid of GMS, right? You can shift 7th and 8th grade to the high school. You free up space at LMS. You could potentially move 4th grade, make it 4th through 6th. We don't know yet what that would look like.
Right.
Could we get rid of it, given well, there are opinions on that. Do we need to? There are opinions on that. So just because consolidation is the word doesn't mean it necessarily
Yeah,
means.
you're right. You're absolutely right. And I mean, ultimately, we just need to know that people want a consolidation.
It's consolidation / redistribution.
Restructure.
Right, yeah.
But again, if people
redistribution.
want that, we're now gonna be examining this stuff in the framework of what is the idea that we're looking at here. 'Cause
For
I
all
mean,
three buildings.
The seventh,
What's the best way to achieve
we know that if we wanna bring 7th and 8th up to the high school, that we probably, even though we have some space there, we do have to add a little bit more space there.
Don't you have to add a
Is what we've been-
cafeteria and a gym, both?
Well, I mean, that was.
Only if you want them separate.
So, I guess.
Don't go down that rabbit hole.
Right. So I guess, Ron, to your point, I think there is value that once we get the on-site insight report, that there is a comparison and I call them, stare and compares between the HL Turner and the on-site insight, and then we can come up with a delta. Or I'll say the consolidation between, what everything looked at and what they may have missed. I think there's value in doing that, so we can understand, at least at the high level, I'll call it the minimum option. Versus, to Ron's point, we've looked at the maximum option multiple ways, multiple times. So I think there's value in doing that. So,
And that's all I was trying to get across.
yep,
Is for people to understand that renovation, in my mind, does not encompass all
yep. So,
options to fix GMS.
Yeah, but we have a much more in-depth that we have to go into at the next level of this. And we just need a little bit of direction. Now, I think that was the original call out here was, where do we go? We've got 9 options. What are we gonna focus our energy on?
Right.
We can't focus our energy on 9 options. It's way too confusing and it's also a waste of time, so.
So, Brian, do we have a schedule of when on-site insight is gonna do it? When are we expecting those reports back?
So they are coming November 6th, 7th, and 8th, one day for each of the 3 buildings.
Okay, so it's gonna be after elections.
Yep, and then we're supposed to get the report in 3 to 4 weeks. I mean, Thanksgiving is in there, the Thanksgiving holiday. So my hope is to have it in the first week of December. In best case scenario, present it to the board at their December 4th board meeting.
So to recap, day of school, no day of school, on-site insight, day of school, Veterans Day assembly.
See you later. Thanks, Bob, thanks,
Thank
Gary.
you guys for coming to this, even though you have to go to another meeting.
Have fun.
They're gonna present to the school board?
No, my hope
This is the
is
part where Kerry
to
gets
have
the
the report in my hand at least by the December 4th board meeting. I haven't discussed with them
December
about.
4th, the school board meeting or this
Yeah,
board?
that school board meeting. There's no guarantee I will have it by then, that's just literally
Your
me.
estimate?
The only reason I bring that up is their scope says they only make one presentation and it's remote.
Yeah, we haven't even discussed like when their presentation is. I just want the physical report from them in my hand, hopefully by that December 4th board meeting, so I can say to the board, I have the physical report in my hands.
Right.
If they're only gonna
from
do
on-site
one, you might suggest a combined board and FIC meeting. if
Yeah,
they're only
I
gonna-
mean, that's what I would think, discuss at that meeting once I have said report in my hand, right?
Okay.
Like, what do we wanna do with it now that I have it? And
So-
then go from there.
Ron, I think what I would like to do is, because I don't want that to be lost, because I agree with you, and I think doing the stare and the compare of the 2 reports and understanding what 2 different companies across a spread of years have mentioned needs to be fixed. I'm thinking I would like to make a motion to say that, let's say we get it December 4th, presented probably just before Christmas, where you guys talk to On-Site Insight, we do all the scheduling guru stuff, is that sometime after the new year, we make time to do an agenda item of this meeting to go through what that says and do that in depth.
Yeah, I mean, I think we also need to see, by that point, we're gonna have the survey results back, and hopefully we can all make a push to get, like, I understand what you're saying, like, you're never gonna have enough, like, we gotta try to get some feedback from the
Yeah,
town.
you
Because
gotta
like,
take what you
ultimately, on the flip side of it, right, like, there was, you know, whatever, 1,600 people that said no to a $44 million school, right?
Right.
But we don't know if all the people that supported the school, there was certainly a contingent of people who probably would have supported a new school if it wasn't $44 million. And there were certainly people in there that may have supported renovation and an addition, but maybe won't support just keeping it, you know, the building as it is right now and just repairing it. And I don't want to end up pursuing that if it's also going to be voted down. So we're just gonna find out what
When you say that, I'm sorry.
the repairs only, if that's gonna be voted down. I wanna know that we have a like some sort of guidance from the town.
Yep.
Saying this is what we generally support, so that way we can,
Well, we can
Present
talk
something
about,
accurate.
just think of the timing though, is if we go forward with a, we'll call it renovation option, which we hire a consultant to design, two things that's significant there. Doesn't qualify for building aid.
a renovation.
We would get back
renovation
in
only,
line
or-
for
A
it.
renovation in
We would
addition.
have to, we would
Yeah,
have to submit a new
We have to submit an
application and we go
Yeah,
with the
we have to submit a
bylaw.
new application.
Okay, just, I mean,
Yep.
just logistically.
Yep.
Think about it. So then you've got, okay, so that's another year process. And then we got another year after that before we hire a firm to start designing anything.
Yeah,
So
I
it's
understand.
3 to 5 years before
Yep.
you would even get through the process.
Right, but at the end of the day, you're talking about, all on the flip side of that, spending millions of dollars to completely repair a building that we may then have to say, okay, well, actually, the community really, like, it's not gonna serve the needs of the community, so now we have to do something totally different. Like, we wanna make sure on the flip side of that, that we're not,
No,
There's a-
I disagree with the characterization of it doesn't serve the needs of the community.
But I get what you're saying, there's a delicate balance of continuing to maintain the building
Right.
while we're trying to figure out the final result.
There's also gonna be a need, right? Let's say we do the renovation or even the new school, right? By the time that new school is done, right? Let's say it gets approved. Let's say we get the state aid approved that Kyle Barker talked about. March it gets approved. It's gonna be a year before we get plans and a full scope design and all that other stuff.
Another year to mobilize and.
So now you're talking summer of '27, roughly. So
At least.
at least, there's still stuff in between then to upkeep and maintain GMS as it is. And likely replace some major critical items like 30-year-old boilers that are hanging on by a couple threads. So there is all of that.
And the only reason I bring this, and yes, we're gonna get the survey. But just keep in mind all what you just said. And Brian, you mentioned that the health inspector said we gotta replace the roofs sooner than later. So that's $600,000. So
Yep, they,
quite truthfully, the reason that I think the option to repair has a whole bunch of value to strongly consider is we could actually get stuff on this year's warrant articles to start that process.
go ahead Denise.
2 questions, one for Matt. I thought at end December, beginning of January recommendation was outside of the school board's desire. I thought they wanted us to respond by beginning of November to make our recommendation to them.
oh, I mean, look, they'd love for us to know tomorrow, but, I mean, at the end of the day, like.
We know when we know.
We're gonna know what we know, like, it is, there's only so much we can do, right? We're
Yeah.
pushing forward as hard as we can, but it's important that we put the right option. The next time that something's on the ballot, it needs to be something that there are more than 66% of people that support.
The beginning of November is when the school starts to present to the budget.
We start budgeting.
And I
And also, I
think,
think that's where they want, like, our
They want a
recommendation,
direction.
if it's gonna take that amount of time, they need to do those potentially plan for those other things that Ron's talking about, like, right? Like, you can't just ignore it for the next 4 years while we get all this done.
Right.
So-
Right, you still have to do maintenance and things that keep the thing standing.
Right.
Number
But it may
two,
not
Number
be
two.
$10 million worth of.
Okay, so she had number two.
if as a group, we're gonna make a decision to pursue anything, from what I've gathered from the group, is renovation and additions is probably where we'd come to the most agreement, and not just a renovation.
Well, I mean, I'm not really
Not about what we
willing to
want.
say
Well-
anything yet, because I wanna know what the survey says.
I agree, but if
I
we're
have no
going to
opinion.
move forward
And I only
with
said that,
anything.
I only said that, Denise, based on surveying the school, going with Dan, and listening to what he said about the operational aspects about to bring a child from one end of the elementary school to the other end for PT and things like that. That when you go look at the construction of the area that Kyle had indicated that should be torn down, he's probably right. It's not very good construction, it's low value. So that's why I thought of all the things that were presented, to me, that was the most attractive, because now we can get rid of the portables, we could fix the operational issues and end up with a building at a fraction of 44 million.
So here's my one question though, because, and I don't,
That was me.
I know you think
And
that
I'm
I'm
just
like
one young-
truly
No,
just
but
pushing a
listen
new
to
building,
everyone.
that's not really, I just want a solution, I don't really care what it is. But my question is, if we, cause this is where, and we can go with someone completely different, we can get a whole nother opinion just to make sure. But if Kyle was right, Kyle started to generate numbers as to what he can get a new building down to, and what he can get, and what he thinks he'd come in at for a renovation addition, and they were like pretty close to each other. At that point, are we saying to people, well, you have a sentimental attachment to the building, so we're gonna present this, even though, at that point, if they're that
So,
close, maybe
you
they
have to
didn't
come
have
up with
to.
a place to put
You're
it.
exactly right, because, again, we don't have any school aid for a renovation and addition.
Right.
And so,
Yes, you do.
when he subtracts
No,
out.
you don't, you have to reapply.
No,
But if
it's,
you
Where we are
subtract-
currently
let me
in
finish
line,
that.
so
When you
it's
subtract
right
out
baseline
the
anyway.
money that could be state aid, then renovation
Well,
/
I-
addition is the same number.
And part of that, just in fairness,
However-
part of that reason why he said that is because if we go to switch over to the renovation addition, we lose our placement
Spot.
on the
That's
list.
my point.
And he was aware of a multitude of number of schools that are coming onto the list, so he said you're probably a minimum of 5 years out at least before you would get back in a position to get state aid.
And I'm in fully agreement with you.
Yeah.
So all I'm saying is the renovation and
Avenue.
addition, or renovation only, is a difficult nut to swallow. One other point I want to bring up on those numbers that Kyle presented, and I'll look to you, Dan, there are no contingencies in any of his numbers.
right. So, and,
So those numbers
I
should
thought
be
there was a
inflated what?
contingency on his number.
No.
so the thing what Kyle said was, these are estimates, these are not scopes, right? So he doesn't have a SOW, he doesn't have a detailed list, he doesn't have a plan. This is what he and his construction company, the other gentlemen, people here
Keith,
did.
TBS.
So that being said, they did mention in that meeting, they're 90% confident they caught everything, but it is not scoped. So this is exactly like the H.L. Turner report of, these are estimates from an architect firm with a contractor in the background. They haven't gone to the detail of doing real plans. So the way I do this at BAE, that level, I carry a 30% ROM factor. It's a
You
rough,
said 60.
no, I carry 30%. Because,
Denise doesn't know what a SOW is,
Scope of work.
statement of work.
sorry, statement of work. So,
All right,
So-
but I think it should be more.
Thank you.
So essentially, when my company goes out and does this, right, they bring in their contractors, their designers, they walk through, they do exactly what they did. It's all right, here's your plan, here's your thoughts. They come back with a preliminary layout, and they will give me a figure that has a 30% ROM contingency. So rough order of magnitude, ROM. And basically, they're saying it's gonna be this cost plus minus 30%.
At this point, in my design life, we add 60% at this point.
Point of order, we have a motion on the table.
We
A
do?
future agenda item will be dedicated to comparing the findings of the H.L. Turner report and on-site insight report. Do we have a second?
Do we have to vote on an agenda item?
I don't think we.
I'm just saying a
I mean, you're
motion
the
was made.
chair, if you want to put it on.
Don't make it a
the
motion,
agenda.
it was a suggestion, a suggestion was made.
Take notes, this is usually Jen's job and she's.
If it's in the notes, I'm fine with that.
Yeah, just say a suggestion was made.
Okay.
I
I
don't know how
withdraw my
often we have to
motion.
actually vote on.
No, that's fine, we don't, I appreciate the discussion tonight and the recognition of doing what you suggested.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what I want to do.
Yeah.
I'm never suggested that we use Turner just.
So then,
Right,
Turner,
my only
so
other.
can I ask a couple
Oh, yeah,
questions?
yeah,
Sure.
please.
Please. I mean, the Turner report is the same as the Kyle's, I mean, that also is just a
Yes,
relative
yes,
order
it
of
is.
magnitude
It is.
estimate and should have that
Yep.
contingency.
Yes.
stuff. So,
100%.
and I guess the other thing, and I respect what you've presented and the effort that you've put into it. You've made some broad statements that I don't necessarily agree with.
Can you explain what
But
ones?
that it's impossible to do anything with that building to bring it up to code and.
No, I didn't say that.
And it feels like the repair-only option is designed to not have to trigger bringing things up to code. And I
Yeah.
don't find that to be a positive thing. I mean, we are talking about building code changes that are
30 years old.
40 to 70 years old, and there's a lot of reasons why all those
Right.
building codes have changed. And so I don't want to promote something that is designed to avoid having
To meet regs.
our buildings be in compliance with
Can I
building codes.
explain why that's important to consider, though? And I didn't say that. I didn't say that trying to, let me back up. One of the things that, as a particular, for instance, I am extremely concerned about is when you kick off having to bring everything into codes, that includes making the building seismic compliant. I've talked to a couple of existing engineers. You have to take the building back to its frame. Being cement blocks, we'll have to take the corners out, put in new posts. Essentially, you will be taking the building back to nothing more than not even a shell. Just simply to bring it up to seismic code because you're now kicking off all the codes. The answer is, is that level of bringing things up to code necessary? No. But, in for a penny, in for a pound. If you go so far that you kick off, everything has to come up to code, then you have to gut the building, literally. And the more important thing with that is, and Jen's not here to speak to the LMS project, the disruption to student life will be untenable. And that's why I, look at the repairs as being in a context of addressing the issue, but also something that can be done in a manner that does not, end up with years and years of disruption to student life. And so that's why I believe the repair aspect, which does not require you bring the whole building up to code, is important to consider.
So, but to Denise's point, and Marilyn, I don't want to cut you off because I know you probably have another part to it, but this may tie into it, like, we do have to talk about educational aspects of this, because this is
Absolutely.
very much focused on just repairing a structure.
Right.
And we do have to have that conversation. It was a hard conversation to have every time, because I've been on doing this for a very long time now. And it's one of those things that's, it's very hard to tie into things, but we do have to figure that out, because ultimately it is a school,
Right.
and that's
So,
something that
What do you
we're
do
kind
with
of
portables?
missing.
What do you do with the classroom on the stage, all that kind of stuff?
So I will also go with Marilyn, I hear you, and I was gonna debate that later, once we went through the combined
Right, no, I
view
just
of
want
the
to
two
put it out there
reports.
on the
Yep.
table, and
No,
I am not convinced, based on your conversation with engineers that you know, that it is infeasible to have a building repair/renovation that also complies with building
Yeah.
codes. And I would want to consult with our own codes enforcement officer to understand what the
Yep.
what the requirements are
My-
before we go down a path of
And why would you
avoiding.
not do
So I
They're
really
buffering up.
firmly believe that we go in, like, after the survey comes back, there's only 3 directions I think that we're gonna end up in. One of them is, people only wanna see the footprint, right? And that's a whole conversation of itself, we're looking at repairs versus renovations. If people say that they wanna see, that they're open to, renovation with an addition, I think at that point, we do have to have a serious look at renovation plus addition versus new, because as it currently stands with our ranking for school aid, and the fact that Kyle thinks he can bring that down to the tune of tens of millions of dollars, right? I think it was 10 million?
No.
Yeah,
Yeah, it was how much?
32.
And then,
So
yeah,
it's
From 44.
12.
32 from 44 is more than 10 million,
with then $12 million
12
made.
million, right?
Not bring
That's
that
what-
to 10 million.
But there's no contingency in that number.
Okay.
Right, yeah.
Contingency in your
So,
number, either.
And there was in his original 44.
Right, so
So
we-
it's not apples to
Look,
apples.
okay, so the bottom line is, I understand that you
Everything will have
absolutely
to
don't
get
ever want
quoted.
to talk about a new building again, right? But
No, no, no,
at the
I-
end of the day, all
I
I'm
do.
saying is, if we're looking, if the town says, I'm open to add addition, renovation plus addition, it would be foolish for us not to at least look at those 2 options cost-wise, just to make sure we're not saying, okay, let's go tear a building apart if we could build a new one for the same price and not have the disruption, right?
Yes.
Or, and then the third possible direction that I think we get pushed into is the consolidation option, which is completely, looking at whether it's rejigging the schools, or if we have to do an addition at one and get rid of GMS altogether.
redistribution.
Redistribution. I see 3 paths that we end up on, and all of them require us to look at more than one option within that path, but it's giving us direction one way or the other, so we're
At
not
the fork of
focused
the
on
road, you
that.
need to pick a direction to go down, and then
Right,
get into the
right.
details as you go down that road.
Well, I think, there's, the other side of it, and it goes back to what Carrie was saying, is I think, to my way of looking at this, the key is what is the capacity for students within the existing school,
Right.
all 3 buildings? And whether it's moving 1 class up
Right.
or 2 classes up, that's a big,
So,
big element.
So that was, and that was, and
Just-
that was researched pretty heavily, but here's the reality, right? Like, the fact, like, I know that was researched pretty heavily. I know that what was found was that it's not really, it doesn't make sense financially, but at the end of the day, I don't care what that was the past, right? If people say to us, we really feel strongly about this option, we think this is the right option, then guess what? We have to dig into it even harder and say, how does it make sense? Like, does it make sense financially?
Can I throw out one thing? A lot of people I talk to are convinced that Campbell High School is the answer to our educational.
Have they filled out the survey?
Yes.
Well, the answer to many people's educational.
But see, I would counter that, I've talked to a bunch of people too that don't want younger kids in the high school.
Well, but you don't need to move 7, you can move 8.
But I do just wanna quickly say, yes, Campbell was designed to fit 550 students, but it was designed for 4 grade levels of 550 students. I'll point back to the Excel spreadsheet that was presented at the end of June that listed the number of empty classes. That's right. I have 2 classrooms that are not used during the day, both science labs. If you moved 1 full grade level up or 2 full grade levels up, there is no place to put them that you're not displacing entire wings of the building.
So this is where there is a very important distinction between capacity of a building and utilization of the footprint of that building.
Correct.
So there is, because that's the point that I would make about shuffling, right, is you can size a building to hold, I size a 100,000 square foot manufacturing building to hold 1,000 people. That's 1,000 square foot per person. That's the capacity of it. Or that's theoretically what we're gonna size it for. But ideally, I'm only gonna have 100 people there, and mostly in the offices, and I'm gonna have 100,000 square foot. So the utilization of that space is much, much higher for what it's being used for. It's just that.
And another thing that we would have to discuss, if that's the direction that we're pointed, again, I know you don't like Kyle Barker's data, but the other thing that he's presented to me that I would wanna actually see someone else present, or whoever present, is that he believes, based off of his research, that based off, without any further development in our town, just based off of birth rates alone, we could end up back to Campbell being full in our current
But
state.
that's not what your report you did 2021 says.
I'm just saying that, because I was talking about just expansion, and he said birth rates alone. So,
Well, remember, the new school we proposed was for 500 students, which is the existing capacity with the portables of GMS.
I thought with the portables, it's 450.
That's our current enrollment.
Oh, I thought when we did the tour, that was the capacity that you mentioned, is that it's 450 and the enrollment was 443.
No, I don't know a technical capacity number. I just know what our current
Was over
enrollment is.
500 students there.
There's 2 additional
Yeah,
classrooms.
but that was different rules
in the
changes.
new building
Right, there's
from what's
rules
in
and changes
GMS
that
now.
now affect that.
2.
yes,
So, point being, is what he proposes, a new school doesn't do anything to the capacity of the way GMS exists today, which
Right.
includes the
Okay.
portables.
Okay,
So just, there's, that new building comprehends no increase in our population of students that he
well,
presented to
2
us.
classrooms is an increase in our population, right?
Two classrooms,
Of how many kids? I mean, it's still an increase in our.
what, 50?
it's,
40 to
What are you gonna do with 50 kids, Ron, if they don't have a classroom? Like, what, you're gonna just put them in the parking lot?
Well,
Like,
you put
that is
them on the
so-
stage, you
Right, right.
don't have a
Yeah.
functioning gym, you
so,
can't service special needs
Well,
kids
can I go
because you
back-
don't have a space for them,
Well, you put
because
them on the
you
stage
have,
with the mats.
Can I go back to the issue at
that's what
Campbell
you
High
do
School?
when you have 40 kids in
I
the
would-
classrooms.
And also in the meeting minutes, Carl Barker stated that the capacity utilization of Campbell High School is 67%. It's in the meeting minutes. So there's a perception, and I have it as well. I would like to request that an inventory of Campbell High School be done for every day, for every class, that includes what the classrooms have in them, the number of students in them, and the subjects that are being taught. The reason I bring that up, also, in the school board meeting minutes that were 10 months ago, there was a meeting held with Hudson School District to talk about potentially combining AP classes because of under-enrollment in both districts.
It wasn't under enrollment at the high school, it was a lack of a teacher at Campbell High School. I didn't have under enrollment for AP chemistry, I didn't have a teacher to teach AP chemistry.
Okay. One of the questions is, what is the size, as a for instance, of the classrooms? And is there enough, is some of the classrooms able to be held in?
So Ron, you're asking for a huge thing that we can look at if the data tells us that that's the direction we should be going.
I'm asking the inventory to be done so that we have that available to us, so it won't become a hang-up.
Well, we were presented a spreadsheet of what rooms were available at what times.
Yeah, there was 10, according to Jetty's report, and I know you don't like it, and I agree.
It's not that I don't like it, I just think that it's not a complete look at what we're actually talking about when it comes to education.
I would
That's my
caution
point.
a few things when looking at high schools. They're just different beasts than elementary school and middle, somewhere in the middle, because they're middle schools. Like, for example, a special ed classroom in a high school setting, there might be a period, most high schools are block schedules at this point, so 4 blocks a time. There might be a block where that class has no one in it, a special ed classroom. You are not, for privacy standpoint, for educational standpoints, for instructional standpoints, you are not putting any other class into that room during that empty period.
there's
Like-
a lot of those rules and regs and operational considerations with whatever assessment, audit, or capacity analysis and utilization that needs to happen.
Now, I think it's fair to look at Campbell. I think there is room and space, and that's a fair critique of it. When we talk about consolidating schools, and I'm not saying pro or con consolidating
Yep.
schools, There are 7 through 12 schools out there that are very successful. There are 9 through 12 schools. There's all sorts of variations. My town has 4 different schools for different grade levels that I live in, right? But you have to factor in a ton of other things. One of these big things is certifications, right? Typically, certifications are the different models, a K through 6, a K through 12, a K through 12, a 9 through 12, a 7 through 12. There's all these different variations. Like, for example, if you were just to pull up 8th grade, for argument's sake, from just a numbers standpoint to the high school, you have to be careful on who can actually teach those 8th graders, because they're not high school students, right? So you have to factor that in. We would have to do an inventory of what teachers that we have. The other kind of component of this is, well, teachers have preferences, right? Like, if you're, high school teachers don't teach middle school for a reason. Like, you are jeopardizing some of your people, staffing wise, who might go and look for other jobs if you reconfigure the building and are asking them to teach other grade levels. And at this exact moment in time, you can go teach wherever you want. There are jobs for teachers everywhere. You can be a little choosy on where you go to work and stuff like that. That has not always been true in the education world. We used to get 100 applicants for an English teacher job. We don't. We get maybe 1 or 2 quality ones now anymore, because there's so much. Teachers have the power now to choose where they want to teach. So I'm not saying take any of these off, but they're not black and white answers of just the strict numbers of size of buildings. There's all these other factors.
Yep.
And if that's the best decision, go for it. We can pursue all those things and present that information, but there's a lot more
But
barriers.
that's the
under all
deep
that.
dive that we have to
Yeah.
take.
And that was always my only issue with that report that was presented at the end of the June. A, I was never part of that conversation, and B,
I could tell.
on paper, black and white, it's not apples to oranges.
And my point is, it's out there. And until it's understood with more detail, it's still gonna be out there. And like I said, it's in the meeting notice, minutes, I can tell you which one specifically if you want. That utilization at the high school is 67%. So what I would suggest and request, as I asked, is to do an inventory by classroom in all rooms, by period, and over the schedule you have, to detail, A, is it open or utilized or not? What is taught in there? And what is the number of students? As a, for instance, one of the things I'd like to know, does the AP classes, are they low enough so that you could make 2 classrooms out of a single room?
I
As a
don't
fluency
think you should
Two classes
do
in one
that.
room at the same
Yeah.
time.
Yeah, the other thing that
You put a wall up in between them.
if you go down a consolidation.
Just asking.
If you go down the consolidation rabbit hole, there's other things you have to start thinking about. One of them might be adding more space to CHS.
Right.
Which is possible, and the core is there to support that. But I mean, we're talking about all kinds of things
I understand.
that, until we get the report back on what people want in town, I think the conversations are.
The reason I bring that up is, remember, one of the questions is, would you support moving 7, 8 to Campbell? So.
When we get the
question-
survey, we'll know that.
But if you're trying to do something, keep marching to time, all
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah, but
saying
at the
is do
same
it.
time, I try to be respectful of the fact that how many rooms are there in the high school? I'm assuming.
42, I
Okay.
don't know off the top of my head.
Well, you know what? You should.
Sorry.
It's your building.
I know.
Do you know how many are in yours?
Well, yeah, again,
46, including the portables.
you know, you think.
Not to make it look bad.
No, I mean, you think about the original blueprint of the building.
That also includes the 30 building though?
And a lot of classrooms have changed over the past 24 years into
Yeah.
other spaces. So now we're losing special ed conference rooms where we hold IEP meetings. Where are we gonna hold those if we're changing spaces back?
I just saw.
Right
who's-
off the
who's
bat, you
office
lost
is
a
in
whole bunch to the
in 128?
SAU.
Not Sarah's, but
Which
who's the
were
one next
originally
to her?
classrooms.
Danielle, she's a school.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. Our school
Her door says school psychologist, and above it says storage.
Yeah. Our social
So-
worker is in a.
So I think, so Ron, I agree with you that it should be done if that's a path that we're gonna end up pursuing. My concern is that if that's not the path, then it's a ton of work that, that the school system, Jacob and his administration, would need to have to go do an audit, and it's another burden to add to the teachers and stuff like that.
And I just have to say this too. Every action that we take has an impact to the climate and the culture of these schools.
Yep.
Yeah.
And if we start going around counting kids and looking at rooms, it is going to have an impact on the climate and culture. And I think Jake and I, we have to protect that as we
Yeah.
go forward. We still have to operate these as positive learning environments.
That's where I'm not suggesting that a monitor sits in the classroom and goes in 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. But
That's why somebody within the staff can do that without,
yeah, but so there's a climate and a culture that happens.
We're not gonna
because-
ask them to do anything until we know
Yeah.
that that's a direction that.
that's fine.
All right.
But we, if that is something that we find, absolutely, we have to take a look at that, right? So, real quick, we wanna be respectful of everyone's time, and we're 5 minutes from the end here. Do you wanna hit the school duty recap?
No, well, I'll save it for next meeting.
Can I have one then?
Sure.
Publicly, anyone watching, anyone at these tables, we are having a community cleanup event at Griffin Memorial School to beautify our grounds, to get them ready for winter so that we can have a beautification event in the spring. So if you are available next Saturday at 10 a.m., one of my secretaries, who is a master at getting places to donate, has already arranged for pizzas and waters. And so we are just going to come, and we're going to pull some weeds and turn some dirt and just get it looking kind of ugly, but also very ready to make it beautiful in the spring. So we're going to be doing some bulb planting.
What
and
is
some-
the date? The 19th?
the 19th at 10 a.m. And we picked that because we know that also half of our school is out there playing soccer right across the field. So we thought maybe when you're done playing soccer, just come on over a little bit to the north and, grab a rake.
Hey, am I allowed to tow my Kubota down?
Absolutely.
Actually, I'm close enough. I might just drive down.
The 19th, 10 a.m. Yep.
Okay.
I'll throw a trailer plate on it. No one will ever
Bring
know.
yard tools, bring what?
Yeah, but bring your tools. There is, I will send it out to the committee. I do have a sign-up sheet just to get numbers as well as, you can sign up, like, I can donate, I can bring shovels and rakes and stuff
Go
like
run
that.
to U-Haul trailer for
Pruners.
$35.
The only thing I believe that
Big enough
Primex
that I
says
need
no
to
to is volunteers cannot operate gas-powered machinery on
So you
grounds.
cannot bring your,
So,
But if it's my own machinery,
It's diesel, isn't it?
yeah, it's diesel. I can put the red diesel in it.
yeah, it's something strange, and I know, but it's like volunteers can't go more than 2 steps on a ladder and operate.
Yeah.
called
It's your insurance. But I have insurance on the Kubota, so I'm good.
So the.
I don't know if I have a task for the computer, but if you just want to play around with it, cool.
Yeah, exactly. Okay.
So, all right, is there anything else to mention before we do a recap
in action items,
in action items?
no.
Nope. All right. Recap. So we went through the email correspondence. We're going to keep action items of business to in meetings and conversations to in meetings versus via email. I am not opposed to if people are giving statuses or stuff that is actioned and they have furthering questions. I don't mind that in email.
Correct.
But got that. For the rec commission, Joe, you're good. Go plaster the rec commission properties.
I'm taking the sign you got, and I'll get more when I need them.
Nice. Server outreach, we updated that. I've got a couple of action items left. Matt, you're gonna get yours by, call it roughly next week or the weekend. And others, the election day sign up, I need to go fill out of when I'm gonna be there on your survey, and do that. Yada, yada, yada. We're gonna look at getting one banner. So I can go do a general price cost of the one, like, table banner. We just need a design for it, whether it's gonna be the orange thing, or if we're gonna do something else, that's gonna be maybe task Jen to go do her captive thingy-majig that she does. And come up with a design for it as to what we wanna say. Can we, if she comes up with a design and sends that via email, can we do like yays and nays via emails on that, or would you rather hold off? Or,
Why doesn't you just go ahead and do it? And we'll be
Okay.
happy with whatever you come up with.
sounds good to me.
I would request she keeps it simple and
Yep,
not too many words,
simple.
Big
Got
clear
it.
letters.
Yes.
colorful.
Bright colors, big letters.
There is, in The meeting notes is about, at a later agenda, we're gonna compare and stare and compare the two reports. The HL Turner and Onsite Insight, I mean, I'm gonna do that as because I'm a nerd and I like numbers and I wanna play with them, type deal. And, yeah, it's more survey outreach. If anybody, the 55+ communities. Jason, you were gonna reach out, and Rich was gonna reach out. Ron, you're gonna reach out to your contact over at Gilcrest. Maybe I'll email Rich, but I think he might be a little bit busy about what he was gonna do and talk to them as well. And the
We
town.
really need to get it, and we need people that are not connected to the schools, we gotta find a way, so.
Yep. So then the other thing
Is someone
is,
reaching out to Rich, because he's not, we sent him here tonight?
I
Make
will,
sure that he
I will send him an email.
is on board with that. I know he's probably wrapped up in election stuff too, so.
Yep.
No, well, him and I were in Concord today, so we rode up together, and we got back, he wasn't feeling real great.
Yep. So
He
I,
wasn't here tonight.
Well, it was really helpful, Ray, is when you directed people my way that day at
Well,
primary.
try, but I don't wanna get in trouble either. The moderator is very specific about what we can and can't do.
yep.
We can't even let her lean against something, you have to hold on to it while you're there, so it's,
Thank you anyway.
you're welcome.
And I think that's about it. Oh, I'm gonna contact the town moderator about, can we give out food or some other form of concessions and a propane patio heater for the table and the people that are gonna be at election day.
And our next meeting is October 22nd at 5:30. I know that Renee was saying something about
Do we have an accurate list of who needs to be on this committee?
do we?
Like, I know we talked about it, we were gonna
Our
send something
attendance
So
out.
I made attendance,
Because-
I asked Dan
Yeah.
at the beginning, he said he only had one person be asked to remove, so.
From the
Because she
list.
should just start over. The
please. Been
the
asking
invite
Yes,
thing.
so
So we're gonna
months.
delete all of that.
I'm gonna share this-
Because they have to all be within the district.
Can't do a listserv, right, because
Right.
it has to be in the district.
I'm gonna share this
But
with
we
her.
can create the thing and she can set up the hosting from the beginning
Yep.
and do all this stuff from the beginning.
So-
I think part of the issue is she came on board, I came on board, people left, and it was just a mess trying to.
And
put-
I was left to try to do Google, which I don't do,
You're
so
right.
like, that's how we ended up here.
So
Right,
we've
so-
granted the permission, we can just take care of it.
Yeah, so the email that I sent out and I asked only for responses if people wanted to be removed. That way I wasn't gonna get 57 emails about yes or no. So I only had one person remove, I've already mentioned that to Dan, about that. So I'm okay with that. I think that's a good idea. Is there a way to, I'm assuming if I can just take the attendance list, if I can figure out what emails go with it, then, because I will create my own,
Yeah, I
like,
think
DL and
across-
Gmail
The
and stuff.
attendance list is a spreadsheet, it's table 2 of the initial sign up
Okay.
spreadsheet, so it's all there. I will reshare it with you so it pops up to the top of your inbox.
Yeah, it's
It
like-
is shared with you, but you'd have to find it, so.
Can
It's
you
also
share
in the drive. All right.
Okay,
Share it
so,
with Renee, too.
so
I'm good.
hopefully it will get less confusing, Ron, I know, it's killing you.
Well,
Before
It
you
is,
click
'cause it-
apply all, ask
It's confusing,
yourself,
I get it,
do
it
we
is,
all
it
need
is.
to-
it repopulates my calendar every time it comes out.
I know, it's annoying.
Yeah,
That's
it's-
why we
with
need to
everything
start
else.
over.
And the notices that you were mentioning, I don't even
I don't
get.
get them either. Yeah, me neither.
So-
Is it possible just to do an email?
That's what he just said, he's gotta cancel the whole
We're
thing.
gonna cancel all that.
No, but you're gonna start another one of those.
We're gonna start.
automatic Google thing.
I think it
It
has
needs
to
to-
not be, part of it is set up as recurring and not as individual event. There are all these little things that,
Yep.
this was probably originated.
Let's try to do it
years
this way
ago.
first, and if it's still.
I will grant,
And Ron, to your question, it has to be sent out as a calendar invite so that you can have the
Google Meet.
virtual option to it, the Google Meet link.
Yep.
And down lower in
yeah, but
the,
you can't just copy that and put it in an email?
No, because.
The
You
invite-
have to- This is where I will
Did the
point you to the
schedule.
fact that
All
this
right.
is not my full-time
Okay, so
job, and I spend too many
I will-
hours here, Ron. That's why I need the calendar.
This is where it gets frustrating. In order for you to be let into a Litchfield School District Google Meet link, you have to be invited from outside of the organization,
I
so.
will defer to your
We'll set
Well, let's
combined
just-
effort.
let's just-
All right.
We got it.
So.
I'm gonna text you ahead of
I
time.
am
We're
gonna
gonna
ignore close. So, meeting is adjourned, close.
Wait, okay, can I just say, I do appreciate everyone discussing the Turner report tonight, in the depth we did, and I feel that at least it's understood, my perspective is better than it was before, and I appreciate that opportunity.
And you acknowledge that we are not trying to, me and Dan are not trying to block you, as you asserted in your email. Thank you. I'm just kidding.
I was reading those, so like.
You can kill it.
We are subject.
Just leave the call, end the call for everyone. All right.
So we're good.